TV.
Hi, and welcome to Politically Speaking Election Edition. I'm David Shearman. My guest today is Nathalie de Montigny from Elections Canada in Toronto. And, I gotta love this technology. It allows us to do so much more. But yes, Nathalie, welcome. Good to have you here with us.
Thank you for inviting me.
Now, it has been my tradition on this show to always try and have someone from either Elections Ontario, in the case of provincial elections, or Elections Canada, and we really appreciate your presence because things do change, although a lot of things change or stay the same. For example, my voter information card arrived in today's mail, and everyone says, "Oh, you gotta have your voter information card." That's not true, is it?
You don't need to have it. It shows that you're registered.
Right.
So when you get that, it means that you're on the list. And it's your own little way of finding out exactly where you're going to vote at advanced polling and on election day. So I got mine too by mail yesterday. Mm-hmm. And so it gives you where you can call if you need help as well.
Right. Right. And that's so important because where you vote matters. At least it matters. Well, it does matter where you vote.
Absolutely. And at a federal election, it matters where you vote. I know that it can be different with provincial elections, but at a federal election, you really need to go where you should be voting, where it's indicating.
Right. Now, I voted today. Not that because I have special privileges. I'm not a special person, but I did what's called a special ballot. And that meant that I went to our local Elections Canada office, which just happened. It's in Owen Sound here, and I happen to be in Owen Sound, so it was convenient. But that address should be on the voter information card, I believe, or the contact number for Elections Canada for the riding should be on that card. But there's more places to vote. What else is on that card, Nathalie?
Okay, so if you voted by special ballot, so yes. That's one of the ways that people can vote. And it's, as you said, you don't need a reason, but it could be because you're traveling and you're not going to be there on election day or advanced voting days. You can be, you can prefer to vote by mail, special ballot is like that. So what you do, I look it up at Bruce-Grey-Owen Sound, you actually have 3 offices where you can go and vote. So you have the one that you talked about, the main office is in Owen Sound, but you have additional offices in Durham and Wiretown.
Yep.
If I pronounce it good.
Yep.
Yes. So when you vote by special ballot, you can vote as early as the first day the election is called. As soon as the office are operational. And you have 3 offices in your electoral district, but there's 500 all over Canada. So if you're traveling, you could actually go and vote. If you're traveling to Vancouver, you can go and vote at any of the election offices over there. And what it means is that, you can just walk in, you'll vote by special ballot. So as you know, they will ask you for proof of who you are and where you live. And then they're providing you with your special ballot kit, which is different, right, than when you go and vote on election day or advanced voting days, where you have the full ballot with the choice of different candidates classified in alphabetical order. In this case, you have a blank ballot, and you need to write the name of the candidate you're voting for. And and you put it back in a series of envelopes, right? So for the secrecy of the vote, and you sign, actually, there's a place where you sign. If you're voting at an Elections Canada office, they will take care of returning it to Ottawa by April 28th. If you have asked to vote by mail, then it is your own responsibility to make sure it is received by election by April 28th by 6 p.m. And there's a pre-addressed and prepaid envelope for that.
Well, it's actually a very convenient way to vote if you know who you're going to vote for. But there's also the advance poll. and that comes up in a couple of weeks from when we're talking. Actually, it's the Easter weekend, the Friday, Saturday, Sunday of the Easter, Sunday and Monday of the Easter long weekend. So, what's the difference between that? What's the advanced poll is just like a regular poll?
Yes, it is like a regular poll, except that it's on 4 days. So it's very convenient. You know, if it's busy when you go, you can decide to come back a little bit later, right? And it's open from 9 a.m. till 9 p.m. So 12 hours where you can vote. And like you said, it's over Easter weekend. So Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday. It is more and more popular. Last election, there's about 34% of the people that whom voted that use this way of voting, the advanced voting.
Mm-hmm. I noticed, well, 10 years ago when I worked the election in 2015, I guess it was 14, 15, somewhere 15, I guess.
15, yes.
Yeah, the advanced, I was supervised one of the advanced polling locations. What was wild was we had at one point 200 people in line waiting
Wow.
to vote. It was unbelievable. But you're right; it's a very popular way to vote. Even the special ballot voting. When I voted today, the staff said to me, "I said, is it busy?" They said, "Oh yeah, it's busy. It's right. It's steady." So people are appreciating the convenience, not just, because it meets their needs, meets their
Absolutely. A
yeah.
lot of people that called in or that we know are, the ones that are traveling and they absolutely want to vote. So it's
Mhm.
very, very convenient. And that's one of the role of Elections Canada, right? It is to ensure to let people, electors, know how they can vote, to make sure that, lower the barriers and inform Canadians of how they can vote.
Right. And the other thing I think that is important to remember is that the locations will change. So where you vote for the advance poll, and that's on the voter card, voter information card, where you vote in the advance poll will not necessarily be the same place where your actual poll is on election day. So pay attention.
Yes. Pay attention because, and it can change from, one election to another's. And
Mhm.
it just depends on what's available, basically, because that's the role of the returning officers, right? What they have to do is they have to secure and sign lease for all those voting places. So sometimes there could, a community center, for example, where you used to go, there could be an event. There could be something and that place is not available. So, not last minute change, but, changes from where you used to. I look at mine and it's like, oh, I'm not voting at the same place for, the advanced polling days. So that's a change. So that's very important to know where you're voting.
Right. And the other thing to remember too, as I recall, is that voting locations, polling locations, be they advanced or regular, are accessible. They're
Yes, that's very important. I was told even like this morning, 97% of all the polling location for advanced voting and polling day are meeting the basic 15 criteria for accessibility. And that could be, like, so you can imagine that, making sure, is there a parking? Accessible, is there like, can you can the door open, all sort of things like that, interior, exterior, just to make sure that it's, if you're voting on the second floor, for example, well, is there an elevator, is it accessible, like who has the keys, all of those criteria. There's quite a few. Then they're making sure they're met, so it is accessible, but it's not all places that are complete. Like so I said 15 criteria that must be met, but there's an extra, I think there's extra criteria. And sometimes some electors would need a little bit more accessible. And that's what's important with your voting information card. And I can show you later how you can add the same access than your voter information card, but it'll tell you how accessible it is. And you can call your returning officer office and they can make arrangement for you if that doesn't suit you.
Well, let's do that right now, Natalie. If you want to go to share screen, and we'll take a look at the Elections Canada website, which has a whole bunch of information um,
Absolutely. Let
on
me,
how to vote, where to vote, and all that stuff.
yeah. So do you see my Elections Canada?
Yep.
Yes. Okay. So here, if you did not receive your voter information and it's card, and it could be because you moved, it could be like in the last year, it could be because you just turned 18. It could be because you're a new Canadian. It could be for all sort of reason because the voter register, National Register of Elector, it's like a database of all the eligible voters. And it's updated by different sources. Among them, there's the Canada Revenue Agency. When you do your income tax, you need to, say if you want to have your name on the voter list. So there are all sort of things. Like currently, there's over 27 million Canadian on the voter on the National Register of Elector, and it's about like 10% that will have moved or changed or whatever. So if we are going here on my voter information, the only thing you have to do to find information is to put your postal code. Here I'm cheating a little bit. I actually went to see the postal code for your voter for the elections office.
Oh, yes,
So
of course.
so it's bringing us to the correct writing.
Of course.
But that's all you do. And just make sure that this is really per postal code. So you like this is an example here. So if I go here, it will bring me to your Bruce-Grey-Owen Sound, Ontario. That's where you're. That's your writing. It will tell you where do I vote right there. So you can click there. And in this case, it's telling you where you're voting on April 28th. And that's an example here. It's telling you that if it's meeting, the 15 accessibility criteria, right? If you need a language interpreter, or if you need, a sign language interpreter, or other assistance, then you can either complete an online request or you can contact your returning officer. So as long as you do it, by April 22nd, so that's 6 days before voting. There's a TTY as well. So it tells you, here are your advanced voting days, the time, the place where you can vote. So, and see, you can even go down and it will tell you exactly what level of accessibility are of your polling place. So if you need extra, you can call.
That's great.
Yes. So
I'm very familiar with both of those buildings, and it's delightful to see that. So let's.
Yes. Another thing, also, okay, so am I registered to vote? So if you're not sure you're on the list, you can actually click here, and it will ask you actually a number of questions. They changed it a little bit, but anyway, I could actually, there's a place here that you can do that, and you can see if you're on the list. Let me just go here. Yes, here. So it's on they put it on the first page here. So voter information card, you can actually, if you want to correct, you can actually do it online, and it will ask you a series of questions. But let's go back to your, to where you are. So there's it will tell you if you're registered, you can register online, you can register at the office, or you can register when you vote. So if you're not on the list, that only means that it's going to be a two-step process when you're voting, and you will need to register first and then vote after. It tells you also who are the candidates that are voting in your electoral district, the candidates that have been confirmed. So candidate had until Monday, April 7 at 2 p.m. to actually submit their nomination paper. And here are the candidates that have been confirmed for your electoral district. It will tell you who's your, electoral, the returning officer and where you can reach. Like those are the actually the additional offices that you have. There's a profile, of your electoral writing. And the past result, in this case, since we had a redistribution, that means that the whole map of Canada was redrawn. I know that your district was not affected by that, but there's five additional electoral district in Canada, and so that means that it's the border might have changed for some of them, and so therefore, again, important to know where to vote because your voting might have changed. In your case, it's not that, but electors across the country, are most electoral writing are affected by the redistribution that happen every 10 years. It's done by independent commission, and it is to make sure that about like every electoral writing have roughly the same amount of electors.
Mm-hmm. One of the important pieces I recall from working with in the election was voter ID, especially if
Yes.
you had to register. And if you want to go back to that previous screen.
Yes, yeah.
Yep,
I'll
ID to
bring you
vote. That's
there.
fine. Yes, I think that's a really important piece.
Yes. So in order to vote at the election, you need to be obviously a Canadian elector, a Canadian citizen. You need to be 18 years old as of election day. And you need to prove who you are and where you live. So you're correct. Here you can show one piece of ID. Over 86%, I think, of eligible electors have a driver's license. That's good. But it could be any other card issued by a government that has your pictures, your photo, your name, and your current address. Or you can have the other option is that you can show two pieces of ID. So usually it can be, like you have a credit card, a bank card, you can bring that. Anything with your address as well can be your voter information card is actually, a piece of ID that you can show. And I can show you here, see, like there's a list of different things that can be brought to show where you live and who you are.
I think it's worth mentioning because I ran into this myself. People who bring just a passport. That only gives you citizenship. You have to have a second piece of ID with your address on it because
exactly.
Your passport
doesn't have
address.
Yes, our passport does not have your address. So you're correct. And one thing, I mean, that is new as well, not new for this election, but that's good to know is that there's also, we do accept, e-statement and e-invoice, that can be shown on your phone. A lot of people are using their phone for everything now. So you can show your those, they're accepted on your phone as well.
I remember there was one lady who didn't have she had her health card, which did not allow which has no address. So she rummaged around in her purse for about, believe it or not, half an hour and came up with a handicapped parking permit issued by the province of Ontario because it has her address on it. It's not on the list. It's still not on the list. But when I checked with the returning officer, he said, yes.
Yeah.
So it's always ask.
Yes.
Always.
So you can see there's quite a bit of, different piece of ID that you can absolutely show.
Yeah. And the other thing too, you can even vote if you don't have ID.
Yes. So that's what I wanted to bring you. So if for any reason you don't have, an ID, another elector can vouch for you. So as long as this elector can prove their own identity and address, so they can vouch for, a person can vouch for another person. Mm-hmm. So that's good to know.
Absolutely. And there are also provisions for voting in hospitals, provisions for long-term care centers, and all of this is taken into account by the returning officer.
Absolutely. We can review the key dates of election, and that will
Yes.
answer part of your question. Because so today we're April 9 as we're, having this conversation, and that's today that there's the finalist list of candidates that are available. So that's important for special ballot because before that, you put the name of your candidate, but if that candidate is not, confirmed and doesn't get confirmed, then there's nothing you can do. It doesn't happen often, but if you want to be completely safe, then today is the day where all the candidates that are running are being confirmed. April 11. So April 11, but I would say up until the end of this week or the beginning of next week, your voter information card should be in the mail. So we saw everything that it can give you, but if it's not, then you can go on the website and it can, you have other ways to find out. Next week, there's going to be a vote on campus. So this is an initiative that's it was a pilot program or a project a few elections ago. And you have, so it's to reduce the barrier for students. So students are in a very interesting kind of situation sometimes because they are going to school outside of their province, not a province, but electoral district, right? Could be province as well. So those vote on campus, they're voting by special ballot. So same process that you did. And they can vote either they have a choice though. They can vote for where they live with their parents, or they can vote in the writing where they live as a student. But that's going to go on for, next week. There's 4 days, April 13 to 16.
And here in this riding, we have a community college, Georgian College in Barrie, in Owen Sound. So that there will be a vote on campus spot
happening.
there.
Yes. One thing that's good to know, if you are close by or for anybody, you can actually go and vote on campus. So it's not only for students. So teachers, people working around, if they want to go, it's voting by special ballot. So it's open, but it's actually aimed to students, but you can go and vote there. No problem.
Good.
April 14, the guide to the federal election is going to be mailed to everyone. So that's part of the mandate of Elections Canada to inform, electors, about the process of the election, to provide information. So that's one way that it's being done. You might have seen, advertising on TV, they'll be on radio, they'll be on newspaper, they're on social media as well, providing you information. So that's part of the mandate of Elections Canada. So there's the Canadian Armed Forces electors that are voting between April 14 and 19, and they vote by special ballot. And they vote at where their unit is based or wherever they are.
And we do have a military base here in this riding, so it's for CDTC Meaford. So
yes,
they will there.
So that's
we've got about 5 minutes there, Nathalie. So we just run it up here.
Okay, perfect.
All right.
So incarcerated electors, they vote on April 18. Same thing by special ballot. April 18 to 21, we talked about those are your advanced polls. You were talking about acute care facilities such as hospitals, so voting by special ballot on April 20 to 22nd. The election offices, like you voted, you can vote there until April 22nd. That April 22nd is a deadline as well for, voting by mail, to apply for your voting by mail, and for, contacting your electoral office if you need help. And of course, there's election day.
And as I recall, that's all hands on deck. You can work from early in the morning till late at night.
Absolutely. Oh yes, absolutely. Those are like, You're there until the ballots are counted, right?
Yes, that's exactly right. That's exactly
Mm-hmm.
right. But that doesn't end the process
No, no.
because the ballots have to be, so the election has to be certified and everything
Yes.
has to be.
So
Go ahead.
yes, it's the preliminary result that are going to be, like, let me make sure that I'm actually using the right terminology because there's kind of a lot of counting the ballot here. Yes, so on election day, so the ballots, one of the things that I should mention is the ballots when the poll closes, doors are being closed, and then they start counting the ballot. It's election workers that are paid and that are counting the ballot, and it's done in front of witnesses. So it could be a candidate representative, or it could be, someone else that's not paid by Elections Canada. So to ensure that it's fair. So the steps is actually, all of those steps to count ballot, it's part of the Elections Canada, Canada Elections Act. So all the procedure, and there's quite a bit of procedure. If you've been, part of it.
There is a lot of procedures there. Now, Nathalie, we've actually got about 2 minutes left,
Okay.
and I'm going to ask you, that your Elections Canada, as you mentioned earlier, needs to hire election workers.
Yeah.
So, and you said there's what, 650, 700 workers in a riding?
There's about, per election riding, there's about 700 to 750.
Yeah.
Elections Canada become the largest employer on Canada on elections day.
So if someone is interested in working in the election, they can simply call the Elections Canada office locally?
Yes, they can call, they can actually apply online.
Yeah.
Like if
Okay.
I'll show you here. If you want to, there you go, jobs. And then poll worker position, they talk about the requirement. They talk about, like there's different position that you can have. And that's it.
And if you could stop sharing the screen then, Nathalie.
Yeah.
I have to say that this has been one of the best shows on elections I've done. You said to me before we went to air, I don't know whether we'll have enough time. My golly, we're out of time.
I'm very surprised myself because, like I said to you, we are, like there's a bunch of us media advisor across the country, but I'm usually doing interviews for about like 5 to 6 minutes. So you showed me that, we can talk for 30 minutes.
You sure can. And thank you. And thank you to Elections Canada for the work it does. It's deeply appreciated because you make it happen. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I encourage you to go and vote and apply and see what, be part of the process. It's going to be interesting.
Great. And thank you, friends, for being a part of Politically Speaking. I'm David Shearman. Yes, we'll talk again.
This program is brought to you by Rogers Xfinity, connecting you to more of what you love. Visit Rogers.com for more details. Connect with us by visiting our website or email us at comments@rogerstv.com.
Hi there, my name is Tracy Hinchberger and I represent the Kincardine District Chamber of Commerce. I hope you will join us for our next segment of Chamber Chat on Rogers TV, a fascinating behind-the-scenes look at some of our member businesses. You'll learn more about local special events, restaurants and retail, not-for-profit organizations, and services in this community. Check out our schedule at www.rogerstv.com for more information. I can't wait to Chamber Chat with you soon.
Canada is at a crossroads, facing an affordability crisis, strains on healthcare, and climate change. Get Get to know the candidates running to be your MP and represent your interests in Ottawa. Hear from your local candidates during Rogers TV's coverage of the local campaign. And on election night, Rogers